So I was out the other day, and I came across this new store called Second and Charles. And I'd never been there before, so I was interested, and I went in. And the first thing I noticed over on the left is this huge collection of records. Now, being the purveyor of sorts that I am, I was interested, and I walked over, and I found this big crate labeled soundtracks. The first thing that came to mind, of course, was The Godfather, so I shuffled through a couple records, and surely enough, there it was, the Godfather soundtrack by Nino Rota. Now, The Godfather is one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. But what makes it a good movie? The soundtrack. The soundtrack makes it a good movie. Actually, there's a couple things that make it a good movie, but the music is one. So let's take a look. The love theme from The Godfather is indisputably one of the greatest pieces of music ever written for film. I mean, everyone and their grandma knows this song. People who have never even seen the movie know this song, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's a really fantastic piece of music, and it complements so well the visual style and melancholy mood of the film. This song landed Nino Rota an Oscar for Best Original Score in 1975, only after The Godfather Part 2 was released. So what happened to his Oscar the first time around? Well, here's one of Nino Rota's older songs written for the 1958 Italian comedy Fortunella. I hope I'm not the only one with a case of deja vu right now. Nino Rota was actually disqualified at the last second from the 1972 Academy Awards for recycling the same piece of music. Thankfully, in 1975, they cut him a little bit more slack and finally gave him an Oscar. After all, it was still his own musical composition. And although the melody was basically the same, he changed the tempo and character enough to make it something way different. Here's another interesting fact. The director, Francis Ford Coppola, had his father compose a large number of songs for The Godfather. Tracks written by Carmine Coppola include music from the wedding scene, like The Godfather's Tarantella. Of course, Nino Rota is still responsible for the movie's most famous songs, such as the main theme, The Immigrant. And my personal favorite of the trilogy, Michael's theme, which I think is the darkest and most brooding piece of music on this record. On a side note, for those who like music as much as I do, I found a great new music mixing software called Dub Turbo. Now, I've worked with everything from Apple's GarageBand to complex composing software like Finale, but Dub Turbo is definitely the most hands-on, easy to use, and at the same time it's really professional, so I recommend you check out my link in the description. So hopefully you learned something new about a very well-known soundtrack today. Next time I'll be reviewing the famous jazz musician Charles Mingus and his album, So until then, buona sera.